Good evening, and welcome to the Lyceum Project 2026. My name is Eva Steiner Karatairi. I'm the head of communications at the National Center for Scientific Research, Demokritos. Together with Marios, it is our pleasure to host you across these 2 days.
Welcome. My name is Marios Dafnomilis. I'm Foresight Advisor at the Special Secretariat of Strategic Foresight within the Presidency of the Hellenic Government. Tonight, we open the 3rd edition of the Lyceum Project, themed Entangled Intelligence, Animate, Ancestral, Artificial. 2 days for exploring how these 3 forms of intelligence come together to build a life-affirming future. So, let's begin by welcoming the voices who will set the tone for this evening.
I have the pleasure to call on stage Dr. Vangelis Karkaletsis, President of the National Center for Scientific Research, Demokritos.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear friends, it is really a great pleasure for me to welcome you once again to the 3rd edition of the Lyceum Project. Here in Athens, just steps away from the place where Aristotle once taught and debated some of humanity's most enduring questions. This modern Lyceum aspires to be a place where philosophy, science, technology, the arts, spirituality and society come together, not merely to exchange ideas, but to build pathways through an increasingly complex world. We are living through a remarkable moment in history. For the first time, humanity is building systems capable of participating at scale in decisions once reserved exclusively for human judgment. AI, artificial intelligence, is advancing at extraordinary speed. Yet many of the questions it raises cannot be answered by technology alone. They are questions about governance, responsibility, democracy, and ultimately about the kind of future we wish to create for our children. Such questions demand intellectual curiosity, but not only. They also require humility, the recognition that despite all our advances, many of the most important questions remain open. No single discipline, institution, or country can address these questions alone. Progress requires dialogue between scientists and philosophers, engineers and policymakers, citizens and leaders. It requires spaces where different forms of knowledge can encounter one another, and where disagreement can become a source of insight rather than division. This spirit is reflected in the remarkable coalition of organizations that have come together here today to support this initiative. The Lyceum Project is a joint effort of the National Center for Scientific Research, Demokritos, the World Human Forum, in cooperation with the Special Secretariat of Foresight, in affiliation with the Center for Hellenic Studies at Harvard University, and with the support of the Ministry of Digital Governance and Artificial Intelligence. And as you can see in the slide, alongside with many partners, supporters, sponsors, who share a commitment to fostering meaningful dialogue on the future of humanity and technology. At the National Center for Scientific Research, Demokritos, Through our work in artificial intelligence, in material science, in energy, health, and digital innovation, we witness every day how technological advances become inseparable from societal choices. Building powerful systems is, of course, a challenge, but ensuring that they are trustworthy, responsible, aligned with human and nature is vital. This is why the Lyceum Project exists. For the National Center of Scientific Research Demokritos, the Lyceum Project is one of 3 spaces where artificial intelligence and technology meet philosophy, opening up questions about society, culture, and our future on the planet. Next to the Athens Conservatoire, at the archaeological site of Aristotle's Lyceum, the Aristotle Pavilion will soon be offering a unique experience, and this will be implemented in partnership with the Hellenic Ministry of Culture, with Foster and Partners, the large architecture company, and the World Human Forum. Right here at the Athens Conservatoire, the Etherion interactive exhibition space fosters technology-driven cultural experiences on ancient Greek philosophy, again in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture. We started back in 2024 as an initiative together with Oxford University's Institute of Ethics in Artificial Intelligence. The Lyceum Project, during that first edition, invited us to think about how philosophy, our ancestral intelligence, can guide our lives in the age of artificial intelligence. It was only natural then to ask last year, 2025, how our choices impact the future of our children. Children in the age of AI was the title of last year's edition. And how we make sure that we inherit to them, to our children, a planet that can sustain their dreams and hopes. This brings us to this year's, the 3rd edition. Entangled Intelligence is the theme of these years. Today we take as our starting point animate intelligence, the intelligence inherent in nature and the living world. Nature has spent billions of years solving problems that humans are only beginning to understand. Forests communicate through underground networks. Bees collectively navigate complex environments. Living systems adapt, cooperate, and evolve with remarkable efficiency and resilience. At the same time, ancestral intelligence, the millennia wisdom of philosophy, the humanities, spirituality, and the arts have created ideas, scientific knowledge, music, institutions, and technologies capable of transforming entire societies. And now, artificial intelligence is adding a new layer of capability to that story. The question before us is not whether these forms of intelligence are comparable, but how they interact. Can artificial intelligence help us learn from nature rather than exploit it? Can it help us design more sustainable materials, improve healthcare, accelerate scientific discovery, and better understand the complex systems on which our societies depend? Personally, having spent more than 3 decades working in artificial intelligence, from its early days as isolated code to its emergence as critical national infrastructures, I have come to believe a simple truth. Machine capability means nothing if it is detached from the essence that sustains life on Earth and on societies. Over the next, today and tomorrow, over the next days, you will hear perspectives that challenge assumptions, that cross disciplinary boundaries, and invite us to think differently about intelligence itself. I encourage you all to listen with both critical judgment and imagination. Allow yourselves to be surprised. Some of the most important insights emerge when different ways of seeing the world encounter one another. Artificial intelligence is often presented as an inevitable force to which society must simply adapt. The Lyceum Project starts from a different premise. The future is not something that just happens to us. It is something we shape together. Here, in the Athens Conservatoire, in the Lyceum Project, next to the ancient Lyceum, let us continue that conversation with the seriousness it deserves and the optimism it requires. Thank you all for being here with us today in this third Lyceum Project. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite His Eminence Metropolitan Theodoritos of Laodikia, Director of the Office of Representation of the Ecumenical Patriarchate in Athens. He joins us today, and we feel very happy about this, to convey a message from His All-Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, widely known as the Green Patriarch, for his decades of pioneering environmental advocacy. Since 1991, he has championed ecological responsibility as a profound spiritual and moral duty, emphasizing the interconnectedness of all creation and the need to protect the planet. Your Eminence, the floor is yours. Thank you for being with us here today. And thank you all.
Let me start with a qualifier. I am not Metropolitan Theodoritos. However, he is with us, and he asked me to read the message on his behalf. It's a double honor for me, not only to read the official personal message of His All-Holiness, but to do so on behalf of His Eminence Metropolitan Theodoritos, who's come down with a cold and asked me to read this. Distinguished Assembly, with great joy we address all of you who are participating in the third meeting of the Lyceum Project 2026, entitled Entangled Intelligence, Animate, Ancestral, Artificial. We congratulate the inspirers, organizers, and speakers of this event for its interesting theme and for its reference to the Colossus of philosophy, Aristotle, who defines the human being as a living being endowed with logos, that is, endowed with the capacity for rational thought and dialogue, but also, as we would add, as the being who seeks a reason for existence, meaning, and a horizon of life and freedom. The human being is not merely a biological entity. Human life is far more than a struggle for survival, for the fulfillment of material needs, and for the satisfaction of the senses. the spiritual experience of humanity attests that the great challenges cannot be confronted on the basis of pragmatic choices alone, of technocratic and economically driven decisions without spiritual orientation. There is no true progress if spiritual values are not respected. Commitment to these values constitutes a source of inspiration. It nourishes and sharpens our sense of duty and what ought to be done. Amid the ever-increasing ambiguity of global developments, the contribution of humanity's spiritual heritage, as it is preserved in the great religious traditions, is invaluable, above all in relation to respect for the sacredness of the human person and the integrity of creation. It is certain that our life will henceforth unfold within the environment created by the impressive progress of science and technology, culminating in the dizzying developments of artificial intelligence. Quite obviously, we cannot ignore the astounding achievements of science. To do so would be, as has been written, as though we wished to live, but without breathing. Together with artificial intelligence, however, spiritual intelligence must also be cultivated. A unique model of this spiritual power is the vision of life offered by our Orthodox Christian tradition. We must develop empathy for nature, which, together with the struggle to protect the natural environment, also embraces admiration for the grandeur of the natural world, joy for the beauty of creation, and gratitude toward the Creator of all things. This is the message of our own endeavors in the field of bringing to light the eco-friendly dimensions of Christian cosmology and anthropology, as well as of ecclesiastical life. Knowledge, faith, and spirituality, together with empathy for nature, make up the triptych of a holistic understanding and experience of the place of the human being in the world. Technological civilization is a dynamic effort to give an answer to the central question, what is the human being? And in the years to come, the search for new answers to this question will continue beyond all that the human being has achieved and will have accomplished as Homo technologicus. No civilization creates an earthly paradise for the human being. The truth that the management of the achievements of civilization is more complex and more difficult than their production will remain valid even in the age of artificial intelligence. We are certain that modern technological conquests do not cancel out what we know about the human being and the human condition. Despite the miracles of science, even in our own age of the human being's existential contradictions and the uncertainties of his freedom remain. Our moral qualities achieved even today through personal struggle. We continue to seek authentic meaning in life and existential orientation, to philosophize, to marvel at the beauty of nature, to listen for the voice of heaven. Together with artificial intelligence, the validity of the diptych of living and ancestral intelligence remains undiminished within the context of holistic, entangled intelligence. With these thoughts and sentiments, we thank you for the gracious invitation to this important event, and we evoke upon all of you and your loved ones all the good gifts of God. Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew.
I would like to invite Mr. Dimitris Papastergiou, Minister of Digital Governance and Artificial Intelligence, Hellenic Republic.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here today, just like Vangelis said, next to the archaeological site of Aristotle's Lyceum, a place of strong symbolic meaning. This is a place that connects knowledge, dialogue, philosophy, and public life. It reminds us that technology should never be discussed only as a technical issue. It should also be discussed as a human, social, democratic, and ethical issue. I would like to thank Demokritos, the World Human Forum, and all the partners of the Lyceum Project for this initiative. Alexandra, Vangelis, and all the other friends, congratulations. You are always giving us food for thought. This year's theme, Entangled Intelligence, is both timely and deeply relevant. It invites us to think about intelligence more broadly. For Greece, this discussion has particular significance. We are a country with a long, intelligent, intellectual tradition. We are also a country investing seriously in future technologies. Our goal is clear. We want Greece to participate actively in the European and global conversation about artificial intelligence. We build infrastructure, attract talent, support research, and create practical applications so that AI serves the economy, the public sector, and the society. This is why we moved fast and started projects like AI Factory Pharos and our new supercomputer Daedalus. Through them, Greece is giving researchers, startup, businesses, and the public sector bodies strong tools helping connect scientific knowledge with a practical value. At the same time, we need to speak clearly about the risks because artificial intelligence and digital platforms already influence how we receive information, how we communicate, and how public opinion is formed. One of the most urgent issues is the protection of minors, and it was started exactly a year ago from here. Some of you, Konstantinos, Alexandra, were already present. Children are growing up inside a digital environment that were not designed with their well-being as the first priority. Social media platforms shape attention, behavior, and self-image. Algorithms decide what a child sees, how long a child stays online, and which content becomes more visible. This is why Greece has placed the protection of minors highly on the public agenda. We need better tools for age verification, stronger parental control, and platforms to assume really responsibly. So we need a framework that protects children without excluding them from the benefits of the digital world. Greece has therefore designed a complete strategy and tools such as Kids Wallet that verify a person's age online. It is also necessary to open a serious discussion about anonymity on social media. In this country that gave birth to democracy, we know that public speech is tied to responsibility. The digital public sphere cannot be a space where violence, manipulation, defamation, and coordinated attacks hide behind fake identities. This does not mean weakening freedom of expression. It means protecting democratic dialogue from abuse and creating conditions where citizens can participate online with dignity, safety, and trust. This is another issue that directly concerns democracies. The algorithmic system of major platforms remain in many ways a black box. They can amplify some voices and may make others almost invisible. They can shape political debate and affect reputation, campaigns, candidates, and election. This is a deep democratic challenge. Citizens must know how information reaches them. Researchers and regulators must be able to examine how these systems work. Transparency is part of democratic resilience and accountable governance. There is one more responsibility that we must not ignore. Artificial intelligence must have a clear green dimension. It sounds ironic, but we ask AI models about the planet's future, while the energy needed to run them is produced sometimes in ways that harms the planet. What we need is our intelligence, human intelligence, to build our future and protect nature. The development of AI must align with clean energy, efficient infrastructure, and responsible resource use. This is why the discussion about AI ethics must include environment. Human flourishing and planetary flourishing go together. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lyceum Project creates exactly the kind of space we need. A space where scientists, philosophers, policymakers, artists, young researchers, and citizens can speak together, and where Greece can connect its intellectual heritage with the most important question of our time. Artificial intelligence is moving fast. Public policy must move with clarity. Society must participate, democracy must remain strong, and human dignity must remain at the center. This is the path Greece wants to follow: innovation with values, technology with responsibility, and progress with democratic trust. And this is the future that we must build together. I wish you a very successful Lyceum Project 2026, and I hope it inspires all of us to move forward with purpose. Thank you so much.
Now, I have the pleasure to call on stage Ms. Alexandra Mitsotakis, President and co-founder of the World Human Forum.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Your Eminence, for being with us. Thank you, Father John, for reading the message of His All-Holiness. That was really both moving and inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, kalispera σας, good afternoon. I would like to start, and you have already heard a lot, but I would like to start in the name of the World Human Forum by thanking you first of all for being here with us today. All of you who are supporting this endeavor to regenerate Aristoteles Lyceum, because this is nothing less than that. Why is this so important today? Because we all sense that something is deeply wrong with our world. The challenges we face are not simply ecological, social, or even technological, as we hear so often. It's not also just that our representative democracy seems to produce more and more tension and polarization, when really it requires consensus and something that was so important in Athenian democracy, respect of human dignity. The crisis we live in goes even deeper. It is about fragmentation, absence of meaning and purpose, an ever ongoing pursuit of consumption, material consumption, that even when extraordinarily successful, cannot satisfy us anymore. For many young people in particular, this leads to a sense of loss and loneliness. So, how does Aristoteles' Lyceum come into that? What even was his Lyceum? It was a school that taught not only philosophy, the love of wisdom in the exact translation, but politics, ethics, biology, and the sciences. More importantly, it helped his students to look for eudaimonia, a state of human flourishing and fulfillment of their potential. Perhaps the biggest lesson of the Lyceum that is so relevant today in the polycrisis that we face is that knowledge advances when disciplines meet and when seemingly different questions are understood as part of a bigger whole. This is what Aristotle taught us. This is what he did. He sought to understand the relationships between things, the patterns that connect life in all its form. He taught actually what we call today transdisciplinarity. 2,000 years before the Renaissance masters reminded us of it. Yet we somehow forgot about it again. And for far too long, knowledge has become ever more siloed. Finally, we are rediscovering it today when we need it most. And what better place to talk about it than in the school of its earliest and biggest proponent. So, our theme for these coming 2 days pays tribute to his approach. 3 forms of intelligence, 3 AIs for transdisciplinarity in the 21st century. Indeed, today, we face a civilizational crisis. No single discipline can provide the solutions we need, nor can any form of intelligence alone. If intelligence is learning, adaptability, solving problems, achieving goals, and you will hear much more about what intelligence is or is not, then we need those 3 AIs we are bringing together here to address the highest challenge of all, maintaining life on our small planet, the only home we have. Today, we need new ways of thinking and of acting that reconnect what has become for far too long separated. I would like to finish by quoting President Abraham Lincoln. He said many years ago, "The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. A new case, as our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. This is why we are here, and this is what we hope a regenerated Aristoteles Lyceum will help us do." Thank you, and I hope you will enjoy those 2 coming days.